Think about what usually comes to mind when you picture a former mayor. Quiet retirement? Maybe a cushy consulting gig? Well, today's deep dive throws those assumptions out the window. We're looking at the unconventional career of Will Flanagan, former mayor of Fall River, Massachusetts. Get this, he's now cannabis entrepreneur.
It's a fascinating departure, to say the least. His story really makes you question what we expect from public figures after they leave office.
We're talking a complete 180 here. To understand how Flanagan went from city hall to dispensary owner, we'll be digging into a few different sources. We've got local news articles chronicling his entrepreneurial journey, a feature piece on his dispensary's grand opening, and because no good story is complete without a plot twist, we've even got his IMDb page pulled up.
Having this range of perspectives is key. It lets us piece together not just his actions, but also the motivations and perceptions surrounding these bold moves.
Okay, so before we dive into the world of cannabis, let's rewind a bit. Flanagan's mayoral tenure was marked by a pretty dramatic turn of events. He enjoyed landslide victories early on, but in 2014, he faced the first successful recall election in Massachusetts history. It was a high-profile fall from grace, and you have to wonder if that experience played a role in his decision to pursue such different paths later on.
It's certainly a plausible connection. Such a public setback can definitely shift your perspective on traditional career paths.
Speaking of unconventional, did you know Flanagan also had a brief stint in Hollywood? Yep, our former mayor graced the small screen in the Lifetime movie Till Death.
I have to admit, that piques my curiosity. It speaks to a broader trend of politicians and public figures testing the waters of the entertainment world.
Right? It's almost like a rite of passage these days. Some are drawn to the allure of staying relevant. Others might be seeking new creative outlets or financial opportunities. In Flanagan's case, he landed the role of head of security at, wait for it, Sacred Trust General Hospital. Apparently, intrigue follows him wherever he goes.
While it's easy to get caught up in the novelty of it all, I think it's worth considering how these experiences, even seemingly brief ones, might shape a person's outlook and influence their future choices.
Absolutely. But Hollywood dreams aside, Flanagan had a more down-to-earth venture in mind, one rooted in the booming world of legal cannabis. He decided to open Cosmopolitan Dispensary, and let me tell you, launching a business in this industry is no walk in the park.
It's a highly regulated market, with unique challenges that require a certain savvy to navigate. It'll be interesting to see how Flanagan's legal and political background might have played a role in getting this venture off the ground.
It wasn't easy street getting this dispensary up and running, was it?
Not exactly, no. Their first location on Durfee Street, that hit a bit of a roadblock.
Yeah, there were some community concerns, right? I remember reading about that.
Yeah, the local news articles, they mentioned pushback from some residents.
Right, but I thought it was interesting how Flanagan handled that whole thing. He didn't just, ignore everyone and power through. He actually seemed to take those concerns to heart.
He did. In fact, there's a quote from him in that dispensary opening piece. He says, "We want to be a good neighbor and a valued part of the community," which, very much the kind of consensus-building approach you often see in politics.
Totally. It's like he's taking those skills from City Hall and applying them to, well, cannabis.
Yeah, and it seems to have worked. They ended up securing a different spot, that old Salter School building on Hartwell Street. And according to the articles, that's been received much more positively.
Plus, it's a way bigger space, right?
Hey.
But I think it's more than just the location. It's that Flanagan is so hands-on with the business. He's not just a name on the door.
Right, and that's where I think that legal background might really come into play. The cannabis industry, it's a beast to navigate, all those regulations.
Oh, yeah. Didn't they have to work around some specific zoning rules even to get into that Salter School building?
Exactly, and that's just one thing. Licensing, product testing, how you can even advertise, it's a lot. I have to imagine that even though it's a different world, Flanagan's experience with legal processes has been super helpful.
So he's got the legal knowledge, he's got the experience building support from his political days, but what about the business itself? How is he approaching this to stand out in what is becoming a pretty competitive market?
That's what I find really interesting. He seems to get what resonates with people,
Kind of like when he was mayor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just selling weed, it's selling an experience. That dispensary opening feature, it talks about how he wants it to feel hip, fun, even vibrant. He's going for a specific vibe, something that feels welcoming.
Which makes sense, right? Cannabis is way more mainstream now. It's not this niche thing. People care about the experience, not just the product.
Totally. And he's on top of that. He's also really pushing competitive pricing. In one of the news articles, he even says he wants to make sure cannabis is accessible to everyone.
Interesting. It's almost like he's applying this public service mindset to, well, a for-profit business.
It is an interesting parallel, and probably a smart one, honestly. It could really resonate with certain customers, especially people who might still be on the fence about the industry.
So we've got community engagement, customer experience, smart pricing. It does seem like Flanagan is approaching this with a strategy, kind of like he probably did back in his political days. But he's not content to just stop there. This guy's got bigger plans.
Well, yeah, he's mentioned wanting to expand beyond the retail side, maybe even getting into manufacturing or edibles. Sounds like he's thinking long-term growth.
So he's not just opening a dispensary. It sounds like he's got this whole vision, like he wants to build, I don't know, a whole cannabis empire.
Empire might be pushing it, at least for now, but yeah, he definitely seems like he wants to make his mark on the industry.
It's really something when you think about it, right? This is a guy who's been a lawyer, the mayor, even had that little moment in Hollywood, and now he's all in on cannabis. You gotta wonder, what connects all these things? What kind of person just keeps making these big leaps?
That's a question a lot of people have probably asked about Flanagan. I mean, on the surface, you see lawyer, mayor, cannabis entrepreneur, and it does kind of feel all over the place. But when you look closer, you start to see some patterns.
Okay, I'm listening. What kind of patterns?
Well, I think you got to start with ambition. This is not someone who sits still, you know, elections, TV appearances, now building a business. It seems like he's always pushing himself, always wants to do more.
Yeah, you can say that again. He didn't give up on that dispensary even when things got tough.
Right. He's a risk taker. Leaving office, switching industries like this, even doing that small acting gig, that takes guts. He's obviously not afraid of a challenge.
It's kind of like he's always reinventing himself, you know?
Yeah, I like that. More than just adapting. It's like he's always trying to figure out a new version of success on his own terms.
Right, so it's not even just about the opportunity itself. It's about doing something different, something unexpected.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes his story so interesting, especially now. The whole idea of a career is changing so fast. People are moving around more, doing different things.
Makes you wonder, is Flanagan just a one-off, or is he like the future of how we think about careers?
It's a good question. Are we all going to be hopping between industries, building these weird resumes, 20 years from now?
It's definitely something to think about. What's clear is that Will Flanagan is one fascinating guy. From mayor to movie star and now a cannabis entrepreneur, he's proven he's not afraid to take risks and redefine what success looks like. So what's next for Will Flanagan? We'll keep you updated as his story unfolds. And for now, keep those deep dive suggestions coming. Until next time.